Good morning, Year 5. Happy Friday. We are moving on today to our non-fiction text, and this week I have taken our non-fiction text from one of our magazines, The Week, which I know lots of you enjoy reading at the end of lessons. So today we're going to have a look at an article from that and then answer some questions afterwards, where you're going to apply all your knowledge about true and false, find and copy, and comprehension questions to complete this comprehension, which will send you into the weekend in a really good place, ready to go next week just before the half term begins. So I will go read this article with you. You will follow along with me, and then we will look at the questions afterwards. So I'm just going to read along with you to help you with some different bits of vocabulary. So we can see the headline here is Rashford tackles food poverty, and this is a newspaper article which we'll be studying soon in Year 5, and you'll be able to apply all the different types of language into your writing in a couple of weeks. But let's get going. Rashford tackles food poverty is the headline. Okay, and then there's you see the subtitles down here, you see other smaller headlines here, and down here as well, which we will come to shortly. So let's start up here, because this grabs my attention straight away. Wow! In 2016, Marcus Rashford scored 2 goals in his first Premier League match for Manchester United. He was 18 at the time. There's a fact about Marcus Rashford that he scored 2 goals on his debut for Manchester United at the age of just 18. Now, he's a famous footballer for Manchester United in England, but he's also made the headlines for different reasons as well, by tackling food poverty, by getting involved with the government, and by supporting pupils who are entitled to free school meals. So he's done a lot of work throughout this pandemic, not just on the football field. So I'm going to go up here first, and I'm going to look at a growing gap, because that will set the context of what this is about. The gap between how well rich and poor students do at primary school in England has widened, so it's got bigger, according to a study released in August. The report says that students from wealthier families do better than their less well-off classmates. The gap was already increasing before the coronavirus outbreak, but now there are concerns that more disadvantaged students will have dropped further behind as a result of lockdown and may need extra support. So we've set the context here that there was a gap already between how well rich and poor students do at primary school in England, and that was widening anyway, irrespective of the pandemic. However, now, because of lockdowns and home learning, the gap has feared to have increased further, and this is where Rashford comes in terms of trying to close that gap and tackle inequalities. So let's go down and look at Rashford tackles food poverty, our main headline. Marcus Rashford, the Manchester has set up a group to tackle child food poverty in the UK. On the 1st of September, Rashford announced that he had joined forces with some of the UK's largest food companies, as well as businesses and charities. Rashford says he is confident the group can help change lives. What is food poverty? Food poverty is when people do not have enough money to buy healthy food. In the UK, around 2.5 million children live in households that do not have enough food. In England, 1.3 million children receive free school meals because their family might not be able to afford to feed them. So that essentially defines what food poverty is, and it's looking at different statistics across the UK and England. So in the UK, 2.5 million or 2.5 million children live in households that do not have enough food. So that means people are hungry in those houses. That means children are hungry. Then in England, 1.3 million children receive free school meals. So staggering statistics there about food poverty. So what is Marcus Rashford actually doing? Rashford wants the government to put in place 3 recommendations. First, to provide free school meals to an extra 1.5 million children aged up to 16 whose parents need extra support. So he wants the government to go further and add extra 1.5 million children to the already 1.3 million children who need free school meals, so that other families who are not entitled to that but may need support do get that. Then, the second suggestion is for all children on free school meals to be given them during the holidays and not just during term time. So at the moment, the government has kind of gone back on this, but before, free school meals were only given to pupils during term time, so while they were in school. However, Rashford has campaigned for that to be given outside of term time and throughout the holidays, as they will also need food at that time. He also wants the value of Healthy Start vouchers, which can be used to buy food items, to be increased from £3.10 to £4.25 per week. Why is Rashford involved? So You may think, why is Rashford involved? He's a famous footballer, he has plenty of money, why would he bother with this? Well, when he was a child, Rashford relied on free school meals. That means he needed them. His mum worked full time, but the family could still not afford enough food. In June, Rashford wrote to members of Parliament saying how important free school meals are and persuaded the government to provide them in England over the summer holiday. He hopes that working with experts will enable him to do more to end child food poverty. He also hopes people who need free school meals will not be afraid to ask for them. I feel like at times people think they're being looked down on if they ask for help. Hold your head up high, and if you need help, go and get help. So we've used some reported speech here. We've got the information about why Rashford is involved, and then there's a quote from him saying people should hold their head up high rather, and ask for help if they do need it, and not be ashamed of asking for help. So what has the response been from government? Some members of Parliament have already tweeted their support for Rashford's plan. The government has said it will carefully consider calls to take fresh action to tackle childhood hunger. Okay, this article was released a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, and the government has listened to Rashford since, which is fantastic. So that is Rashford tackling food poverty and the inequalities in England between pupils from different backgrounds. Now there's little other segments here in our article that you're going to see questions on, so let's have a quick look at those. So each week, weekly newspaper gives a word of the week, and the word of the week this week was gossamer. My turn, gossamer, your turn. Good. So this beautiful word describes delicate cobwebs spun by small spiders that float in the air or settle upon grass. It can be seen especially in the autumn, although gossamer is thought to be a shortened version of goose summer because the webs are visible, particularly in calm, clear weather, and look like a bit of the down of a goose. So that's where the word gossamer comes from. There's a new word for you, describing the delicate cobwebs that are spun by small spiders. Okay, we have another little article here about Grace Darling. So the week in history, so each week again, you get a little bit of historical information. The 7th of September 1838, Darling saves shipwrecked passengers, so some information about what happened on this night in 1838. On the 7th of September 1838, 22-year-old Grace Darling risked her life to save passengers on a sinking ship. Darling's father was a lighthouse keeper, and the family lived in Longstone Lighthouse on the Farne Islands off the coast of Northumberland. At around 4:30 a.m., so the middle of the night, Darling saw the steamship Forfarshire had crashed near the lighthouse. With her father, she rowed into the sea and saved 9 passengers. Darling's bravery was reported in the newspapers, and her story spread around the world. So, I've now read this article and this page from the Weekly News, and we are now going to look at some questions. Now, each week I'm going to take articles from this, and we're going to answer questions, and it's really going to help us prepare for doing newspaper articles in a few weeks, like I said, in our writing. So, this PDF is on your home learning sheet if you'd like to reread it, and the task sheet is also on your home learning. So the week junior, we have true or false questions and the section you need to go to. Now I'm not going to model any today because at the end of the week we give you a cold text to let you try and bring your skills together. We have our find and copy questions that I will go through at the end. There's 4 of those and it tells you where to go. And then we also have our comprehension questions. We have 5 of those, and I'm just going to explain the last one before you go. So, comprehension questions: how, on what date, that's a literal question; how many children, that's a literal question; why is the word gossamer thought to be a shortened version of goose summer? That is why question, so you should start your answer with because. And finally, number 5, do you agree with the work Marcus Rashford is doing? Use evidence from the text that supports this reason. So that is kind of like a mini big question, where you're going to have to say if you agree or disagree with what Marcus Rashford does, and then find evidence to support your reasoning. Okay, that's quite important. It's up to you how you answer that one, and using the model to be a question, making a point, and supporting with evidence. That is up to you, using the whole text as a whole to decide whether you agree or disagree. So what you need to do now is you need to pause the video here. You need to go and complete those questions that are in your home learning document. You may print it out if you want, or you can just write down the answers in your copybook, as you've been doing for the last couple of weeks. So many of you have done it so perfectly neatly, and if that's what you want to continue doing, then that's absolutely fine. Otherwise, just pause the video here. You have your PDF, you have your questions, go away and do that, then come back and mark it with me as we go through the answers, as it's really important that we do mark before going anywhere near Seesaw. So pause the video here and go and complete the questions. Okay, well done. So we're going to look at the answers. Number 1, MPs text Marcus Rashford showing support for his plan. That was false, because they tweeted him. Be very careful, some of these true or false questions will try and trick you. Number 2, the coronavirus pandemic has raised concerns that more well-off children have pushed ahead of disadvantaged pupils. That was true. That's the first thing we discussed, so take or fix. Number 3 of our true or false questions. Food poverty is when people do not have enough money to buy any food. That is false. They have enough money to buy some food, but not healthy food. And finally, Rashford hopes that working with experts will end food poverty. That is true. Okay, so well done if you got those correct. If not, just fix them and before uploading to Seesaw. Okay, find and copy questions. Look at a growing gap. So we have to go to the section titled a growing gap. Then we have to find and copy the word that tells us the gap between pupils were getting bigger. One word, and that one word was increasing. So well done if you got that correct. Number 2, look at what is Marcus Rashford doing. So to go to that section, we have to find and copy the word that tells us some parents need help. And that word that told us was support. They needed support, they needed help. Tick or fix. Look at the heading, why is Rashford involved? Find and copy the word that suggests Rashford needed free school meals when he was a child. So that word was relied. He relied on them, that means he needed them. And finally, find and copy the phrase in what has the response been, which suggests that the government is thinking about implementing Rashford's plan. There's a phrase, or there's more than one word, and they were going to carefully consider. If you just say consider, that's incorrect because it said phrase, which is more than one word. Okay, well done. If you got find and copy correct, tick or fix. And we'll move on and look at comprehension questions. So, how did Grace Daly's story spread around the world? Well, it was reported in the newspaper. That's how it spread around the world. Number 2, on what date did Rashford announce that he had joined forces with some of the UK's largest food companies? He announced that on the 1st of September. Number 3, how many children in the UK live in households that do not have enough food? How many children? So we need a figure, and it was 2.5 million children. So well done if you got that correct. Number 4, why is the word gossamer thought to be a shortened version of goose summer? And it's a why question, so I need to use because. So the answer was because the webs are particularly visible in the calm clear weather and look a bit like the down of a goose. Okay, so there is the questions, or the answers to the comprehension questions. Then number 5 was your own opinion. Do you agree or disagree with the work Marcus Rashford is doing? And you needed to provide evidence to support you. So hopefully you'll be able to upload all this to Seesaw, tick or fix, and then we can read your question 5, if that's your opinion with evidence. Otherwise, have a fantastic weekend. You have one more week to go before a well-deserved break for the half term, and we will look at a different text again next week. So have a lovely weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday. Bye.